Yes, sir. We are going live now in YouTube. Uh, so, good afternoon, all the attendees. Good. Here we have a person with a high stature who doesn't need any introduction, but still I would try to introduce him. May not be in a better way. Still, I will do that so that we all should know him mandatorily. That who is he and how much he has given his career to the legal profession, legal fraternity, and what he do generally in common. So, in today's afternoon, we have Mr. Navin Kumar Jaggi with us. He is a renowned Supreme Court advocate, a social activist, and the CEO at firms namely Jaggi and Jaggi International Attorneys at Law, and Navin Kumar Jaggi and Associates. He is a former law teacher in Delhi University, and the students who are viewing us from Delhi University will surely and obviously recognize him for his great deeds. He is also a life member of the Supreme Court Bar Association and Indian Law Institute, and has been the counsel for the Union of India, Delhi Development Authority, and several other public sector undertakings for several years. He was also given the award for excellence in the legal profession by the then Honorable Chief Justice of India, Sri A. M. Ahmadi, in 2001. He has started practicing law in 1972 and has been practicing law since 5 decades by now, and has received prestigious awards from 3 former presidents of India for his various community services. He is a legal luminary whose acumen, years of experience, knowledge, and sharp conduct will be significantly insightful for our viewers. We are highly honored and grateful to have you, sir, on board with us. Thank you so much, sir, for consenting for today's interview this afternoon.
Thank you very much
All,
for inviting.
welcome, sir. So now I would like to tell few things about this organization so that our viewers will be aware with this. I and Jyoti Prakash Datta uh, have formed an organization namely Lex Cognoscenti, wherein we conduct quizzes, webinars, wherein justices from different high courts, legal luminaries give lectures, and all of that is free. So we particularly aim at giving to the society by way of doing these webinars, quizzes, and various other competitions, so that the students who are connected with us get inspired from us, get knowledge on various fronts, and any other good things that they can take from us. So the main objective and purpose of this Lex Cognoscenti is to give to the society, give to the legal fraternity everything for free, in free of cost, so that education is education will be accessible by all without any cost. So without further delay, and with our honorable guest's permission, I would like to start the interview.
Thank you, please.
Yes. Yes, sir. So the starting with the very basic question, that is, can you please tell us something about your childhood and schooling?
I was blessed and fortunate enough to come from the landed gentry, and I'm a second generation lawyer. So I had my education in the best school of the country. My father was the chairman of the governing council of all senior Cambridge schools. Our papers were set and corrected at the Cambridge University, England. This system finished when the Janata government came into power in 1977. So we had the advantage of the best education, where English was not only an mandatory subject, but you actually acted, interacted, thought, worked, and dealt with in English. So I am probably more well versed with English than I'm at Hindi, and more well versed in English than I'm even in my mother tongue, Punjabi. So I'm very fortunate to have this. This is the best school. Sanjay Gandhi, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's grandson, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi's son, was my class fellow. Rajiv Gandhi was a senior. Sunil Shastri, son of Dr. Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, was my class fellow. We played, we did mischief. Of course, Sunil was a decent boy. but Sanjay and I did a lot of mischief, and we did get into trouble and we were caned. And the point is that the level of integrity, the morality and ethics was totally different from what it is now. The Prime Minister's grandson, son of the future Prime Minister, he played a trick and he was kicked out of that school and then he went to do school from Columbus, best school. And the Prime Minister never, then Rajiv also followed him. The Prime Minister never ever put in a word. I was the son of the chairman of the governing council. I was caught. I was taken to the field. And I still remember three PTIs, Mr. Philip, Mr. Hokel, Mr. Lockwood, 6 canes here, 6 canes here, 6 canes here. My father could have stopped it. No, he didn't stop. That is what made me a man for what I'm today. Today, if a child is even scolded, chided or reprimanded by a teacher, the parents come to me. No, that was not then. My father could have stopped. We are thrashed, but that made us what we were. Life was very different because there's far less competition. Far less competition, and everyone respected everyone. If a lawyer went to a police station, the SHO would stand up. Aiye Vakil Saab, Tashrif Rakhe. Urdu language was very common those days. Janab Ali, Vakil Saab, Tashrif Rakhe. Today, when the young lot go there, they fight the cop. Cops and lawyers never fought. It was unheard of. We are part of the same branch. We are two arms of the same tree, same body. Today it's different. So very, very different. A lawyer was really respected in society. You went there, and by the very fact that you were a lawyer, it meant that you were somebody above you. See, what has happened is those days, law was not the concept of inclusivity was not there. Times have changed, so today it is inclusivity. Earlier it was exclusivity. Those with a fluent background, those who had means of their own and did not have to survive on the legal practice, joined this profession out of their own fair will, consent and volition. They didn't have to earn. And I remember in our days, 49, 50 years back, for 6, 7 years, you had to live off home. Today, you expect a packet worth 3 lakhs starting everything. But those are different days. I'm not comparing. Those were days when the partition had taken place. Gandhiwadi, the morality, ethics was still there. The freedom fighters, they were still existent. A lot of them were there. They were controlling the thought process of the society. So there's a lot more of integrity and ethical and moral values than with passage of time. Things have changed. Law was actually in earlier days meant only for the affluent class. Are you aware of that? Any attendee you can ask. There's a pouch in a gown that a lawyer wears. You ask any of them, what is that pouch meant for? That pouch was meant for when the counsel would go to the court and come back, he would hang his gown on the thing. The client of his own free will, accord and volition would pay whatever, £1, £2, 10 rupees, 5 rupees, 1 rupee, 2 rupees, as that was. The lawyer was not supposed to charge. The lawyer was not supposed to charge money because this was a noble profession. Can you believe it? In all my life, I have never ever solicited for work. That was my father's philosophy, and we still carry. Never ever solicited. Because the lawyer is not meant to solicit. Of course, times have changed, you cannot work. And with this pandemic, things have become even worse. So soliciting has become necessary for the first generation lawyers, the new ones. But the law as a profession, as you would see in England or you see there, that was totally different. You're meant to uphold the majesty of law. A lawyer's dress, in England would cost several, converted to, a proper attire would cost 2 lakhs. If you wear the barred cloth striped pants and the gown and the collar, the butterfly collar. But that was then. Talking of now, It's different. We have to live in the present world, we have to adjust, we have to see. Now, in the inclusivity, we have to give the students a chance, the chance that was only available to the few selected. That is not fair. Society is not meant to give only to the few. Society is meant to give to everyone. Anybody who deserves on merit must be given the first chance. So therefore, your Devashish and Mr. Datta's, Mr. Panda and Mr. Datta's exercise, this is not only corporate social responsibility, this is professional social responsibility, a concept that we conceived at Triple J, Jaggi and Jaggi. That professional social responsibility. My father would do 3 cases free out of 10 of his own will, and even spend money on the litigation. Those values are there. But my young daughter, who's a 3rd generation lawyer, she cannot see that. She sees the way your generation sees. But then, in reality, we have to bring the old with the thing, we have to merge the two. You have to see it's your world. Our world, we are antique. It's your world, we have to do this. But we can still practice with the utmost integrity, morality, and ethics. It's still possible. And if we've done our homework, very good. What I feel, many students think that getting a law degree, getting a black coat, getting a license, you go to the court and you will get what you call everything. No, it's not like this. It's not like this. Umesh, वो फोटो लेके आना, वहाँ से जो वो है ना फोटो, इंटर्न वाली वो लेके आना. I have trained hundreds of students after my death-defying surgery in 2017. Right? And I want to share with you something which is of closest to my heart. I'll show you a photograph. This is, can you show it? Can you show it? Can you see this? Should take it nearer. Or you want to take it nearer? Take it nearer. Can you see this? Can you see that liked less and remembered more?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
These are
This is Delhi High Court, I guess. Yeah.
Delhi High Court. These are my interns of May 2017. We should have trained 42 interns in 1 month. You think it's easy? 42 interns in 1 month. And they presented me this. It's up very close to my heart because what is written here is liked less and remembered more. See why? What I say is because I would be rather strict with them, and I would, if I found that they were just there for the fun, that thinking internship is just 1 month certificate. I said no. I said I don't give any respect for your inconvenience. I owe duty to your parents. They are spending their hard-earned money, and you are. I mean, if you are going to waste that, it's a criminal. It's a criminal act. So I would train them, we would develop their persona, tell them what a lawyer actually is. And my greatest thrill and my greatest happiness, you won't believe it, greatest happiness is when their parents come and bring me up and they say, sir, my son and daughter already told you before telling us, he's told you to achieve this. They may be hurt, they must be cursing me in their mind, I know that. Because if you're strict with them, but they all go, but that is my reward in life after my post-death surgery. The difference, you take on these interns and you take on the interns from when they come raw from the college. That's a massive difference that we do. Develop their personality. Teach them. Many of them do not know a thing about art of cross-examination. They do not know the oratorial skills. They do not even know, how to draft. We teach them the basic. Everyone thinks if you cite a few judgments, you'll get it. No. It's a statute that you have to know. The judge can always defer if you say the facts of the judgment are different. So where do you go? That development of their entire personality, that is what it is. Right from their attire up to their presentation in court, that is what we are looking for. I'll share with you in 1972, my father had a fairly large practice on motor accidents, and there was a big case, New Delhi tire. If you can trace this, that is 72, 73, you can trace this. The New Delhi Tire Company filed a writ petition in the High Court. And my father's clients, they were the truck operators. They asked him to be pleaded, asked my father to file an application so that they could be included in the case. That application was filed. I fought with my father and I said, let me do it. He said, no, it's too big a case. I said, please. I was able to prevail upon him and he allowed me. That case came up before Chief Justice Prakash Tran and Justice P.S. Appeal. And what I argued in Order 1, Rule 10.2, that is in pleading necessary and proper party, right from Halsbury Law of England, the law Lexus, everything, both the judges have written in that application. They dismissed the application, but they have written Mr. N.K. Jaggi argued very ably. Now, can you imagine a few months, maybe not even 2 months, 1 month and 3 weeks, before a very tough bench? That was because I had done my research when I was doing my master's at the INI. I had done this. Till date, that is very close to me. They wrote, argued very ably. And later at the High Court function, both the judges told my father that they themselves did not know so much about writ jurisdiction as what I pointed out. That is still ringing in my ears. That is the kind of work that you, Mr. Ponda and Mr. Datta, are going to create for your student. A lawyer is the moment you don a black coat, you're a class apart. Class apart, not that you're going to be a don or you're going to be a gunda or a villain. No. Class apart because now you're a distinguished gentleman. Distinguished gentleman of the society who's going to not only uphold the majesty of law, but is going to conduct himself with complete distinction as an example and illustration for the rest of the common people. That's the difference. And this will give you an open avenue anywhere in the world. No other profession, if you know your job, no other profession, doors will open for you, provided you know your job. You will have sky's the limit. But the only problem is that the money that you earn, you won't have time to enjoy it. Your wife and children will enjoy it because you will be so occupied with your work. That's one thing. But the fact is, this opens doors to so many things. I did one case, can you believe it? This was before Justice Yogeshwar Prasad. Yeah. He was the Chief Justice Delhi High Court, then Gujarat High Court, then Judge Supreme Court. He passed away while he was sitting judge of the Supreme Court. A person was challaned 10 rupees on his motorcycle. This, of course, was not my effort. My father told me he wanted to file a revision petition. The High Court challenged this, that the police officer could not have challaned him 10 rupees. I said, why? Who's going to the High Court for 10 rupees? He said, go. And my father said, go and do your homework and let me see how you do it. I couldn't find out. Then my father showed to me there was no definition of the vehicle, motorcycle. And when I filed the petition, Justice Yogeshwar Dayal, he was a neighbor in civil lines, distinguished family. Brother was also very senior. His father was a very distinguished lawyer. He laughed. He said, Jaggi, what have you brought 10 rupees to the High Court? Are you not demeaning the very value of the High Court? I said, no, Your Lordship, I am enhancing the value of the Lordship, that regardless of the poverty or the grandiose of the client, the Lordship does justice. Raju, Garib, Amir, the Lordship, 10 rupees. He said, what do you have in the case? I said, everything. He said, show me. I said, Lordship, I've looked everywhere, hither, thither, backward, forward, left, right, center, forward, straight. The Motor Vehicles Act does not describe the motorcycle at all. He said, how can that be? I said, Lordship, let us study together. The Lordship of it. We studied, there's no definition. Because what the Motor Vehicles Act was made in 1939, promulgated in 1939. And the Second World War started in 1939. The definition in the motorcycle was the motorcycle and the attached, remember, if you see the older movies, the German armies and everything, along with that in the car, a man would sit there. One soldier would drive, the officer would sit there and the guard here. So that was the definition, then that definition was modified. For 10 rupees, the High Court. That's the Yogeshwar Dayal. Then 1982 when we had the Asiad, 1979 when Mrs. Indira Gandhi came back into power, we had just 18 months to conduct the Asian Games. You know, the Olympics are the biggest games in the Commonwealth and the Asia. So we had to go through this place, Indira Gandhi Stadium, the Central Secretariat, all sandy areas, they have the banks of the river Jammu. Here a stadium was to be built, and for the first time, the technology had come from Germany. If at 4 o'clock the workers would climb up, if at 4 o'clock the sun, there, if the sun was 5 minutes later, they were late, they could not tie the end, they had to do it the next day. That matter went up there, this Tarapur and Company case. Of course, the judge decided against the DDA and paid them 4 crore damages, and their justice, Chief Justice of India, former Chief Justice of India, P.M. Kripal, Chief Justice Delhi High Court and Chief Justice of several courts, he has written very ably argued and pointed out like this, trying to save the government money. Now, these may be very small things. The thrill is not winning or losing. The thrill is when you come back satisfied that you got justice done to your client. That is what matters. I think in one of the questions you wanted to ask me, who's your inspiration? I put that question to you. You heard me for a few minutes, some time. Who do you think could be my inspiration? One, England, America, and India. You answer that question. I'm putting it to you. Let me see if you are getting across here the same wavelength. Okay, I'll help you. In India, Justice Krishna Iyer. Okay. In America, Justice Warren Burger, Chief Justice, and Lord Denning, the be all and the end all of, never been a better judge. They be my inspiration. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I was fourth in IAS and second in DJS, but I never wanted to be one. I wanted to be a lawyer. My father preferred me to be in the services, but I said no. And how it happened, my younger sister got her pocket money, and she put that pocket money in her wallet. And when she was studying in Miranda College, she left that wallet at home. And she went, she went to the course, and when she went to the college. When she came back, she was worried all around. She thought she lost the word, everything. She said, anybody found my wallet? Everyone said, no, we had it. Because I had hidden it. Fortunately for me that day, those days, there was a big controversy, big argument in the family. My father said, going for services, going for this, and you succeeded, you've done so well. My mother was favoring me, being an only son. We had a lot of guests that day, fortunately. 12 guests landed up at our place. So an idea struck. I said, let this be the jury, all these 12 guests, right? And let me present a case before them. My father said, are you senile? He said, no, let's do it. They agreed. All the 12 guests, they sat there. We made it like a courtroom under the jury. And we called my sister, and I said, member of the jury, and brought her to my father. Here is the accused. She has spent her money and she's telling lies. She's indulging in prevarication by saying that she's lost her wallet. I cross-examined her. She got so frustrated. Said, yes, I spent the money. And then lo and behold, I took out the wallet from my pocket. I said, no. Now, member of the jury, she had left it at home. She did not spend the money. But do you think I can be, maybe it is wrong. Do you think I have any competence in me to be a lawyer, to be an advocate? Do I have any merit on cross-examination? So that was on the right side, but it did prevail upon I would have succeeded because my mother would have backed me up. But that was how it happened. Any specific question that you have?
Yes, sir. Thank you for explaining all these about your childhood memories and your pre-law school career and post-law school initial career. But then, as a young law student of this generation, I always wonder as to how the legal education was at your time. Because
This is
50 years back, it would obviously be quite different from today's generation.
absolutely different. Absolutely different. See, let me first clarify. I owe it to you, Mr. Panda, for bringing to my notice that senior advocate somewhere. I've already talked to those firms in every place. And then Delhi University, they had put up there without my permission. That board was there. I've always believed in total honesty and fairness, so I would never ever learn. See, a senior advocate, this is very important for all your attendees and for all of you. A senior advocate cannot do any drafting. And I have, for 12 years before 2017, all the contracts that I constructed for the clients, whether it be in Europe, Western Europe, even Eastern Europe, Mediterranean, Latin America, Middle East, Latin America, any Southeast Asia, and Far East, they have not been conquered. Drafting is my forte. If I would have become a senior advocate, I would not be able to draft. I'd have to give it to Mr. Anmol Sharma or to Mr. Panda or Mr. Datta. Then my neck would be in your hands because you'd always know that I had dictated. Right? Therefore, the choice was this: your main income there or what? Because a senior cannot. This is very important for you. Many of your students today they say, "Koi farak nahi padta." Farak padta. I'll give you the case of a lawyer whom I've always admired. We lost him a few months back, Delhi High Court. He was a senior advocate. He was an office bearer of the Delhi High Court. He has two sons. Both his sons have been office bearers of the Delhi High Court Bar Association. One day, a common friend, his grandniece, had come and just here staying with us, and she said, "Can you drop me, sir, at their place?" We're good friends. He was senior to me by 2 years. I said, "Okay, I'll drop you there, and whenever you get free, give me a ring. I'll pick you up very near my place." I went out there, we were talking. By that time, this lady was sitting there. The client had not come in. So when the client came in, so the lady went in. I said, "Okay, I'll also go." He said, "No, the lady has to sit. I have to give some dictation for her, and then you can come later." I was going. He said, "You also sit here." There's a conference room. I also sat there. We're good friends. We've done many cases today. This client settled a fee of 3 lakhs to them. And this gentleman, senior lawyer, said, "All right, I'll give the dictation custom." I kept, the lawyer was sitting there, the client was sitting here, I was sitting opposite the lawyer. I kept giving signals to don't. And what it later transpired, I'll come to that, the lawyer said, "No, doesn't matter." He gave the dictation, everything, notice was there. The client gave a check of 1 lakh. He said, "I'll send you 2 lakhs once I get the fair notice." That check bounced. So he rang up the client and he said, "No, the check has bounced." That client sent a notice to him. You acted in dishonest, fraudulent practice. You're a senior, you never told me. And how are you dictating? I shall report you to the bar council. And this is here on his camera, mobile camera, he had recorded. And unfortunately for him, when I'm telling him, don't, he said, doesn't matter. That was also caught there. And he sent him that clipping of that, he sent him that. And he said, for playing fraud on me and delaying my work, the notice would have gone on this date. Now you wasted 4 days of my time. Pay me damages of 50,000 rupees per day. Claim 2 lakhs damages, and he says, playing fraud, give me money. Can you believe it? Would it ever occur to you, Mr. Mo Sharma would probably think, how does it matter? It matters. The client he saved his, And he kept the notice. He kept the notice, used the notice, and this lawyer could do it. Was ultimately settled that 1 lakh gone, 3 lakhs gone, and he had to pay 50,000 rupees. So senior cannot. If, for God forbid, it's very, very important what I'm telling you. If a senior is dictating and the junior is very loyal to him at that time, for any reason there's a breakup, that junior associate, junior partner, junior, you can always, and today everything is available on the mobile. That's the very, very important thing for your students to know. Now, coming back to your question, that education was very different. We had two sets of books in the High Court Library, Supreme Court Library. There's only, and District Court, I'll come to that, this study bar, and in the Delhi University Law Faculty. One was to be kept in the library, the other could be borrowed according to seniority and day. You had to take notes. If you were caught highlighting, there were no highlighters also 50 years back. You had to use a pencil, everything to highlighters. If you were caught, spoiling the book, you had to pay a fine. It was very difficult. But every professor that we had, the professor was a professor because of his own free will, accord and volition of his own choice. Reality, virtually, figuratively, literally, he was a guru. He was a Dronacharya. He treated you like this, like it was his responsibility to make a fine young lad out of you, go to the world, impart the right, justice, values, go and succeed on merits. So very different person we had. Not that they were not tough days, but those values were very different. And suppose you're short of attendance, no way you're going to get it. If you're 10 minutes late, no way he's going to mark you credits. I had one Professor Saxena. We started the year 1970 it was the 1st of January. I was studying in my next semester. I was late by 6-7 minutes. I kept begging him, give me attendance, sir, give me attendance. I'll share something else with you. You know, my wife did her LLM from Yale. She and Hillary Clinton were class fellows. And when that was 1 year, and she came back, and I was in LLM second year. She came back and she started teaching. She retired as a professor in charge. Yeah. I was quoting her, and I was short of attendance. Can you believe it? I was going to marry her in May, and in November, December, she's not willing to give me the attendance. She didn't give me the attendance. I had to go and get the attendance from the professor in charge, that time, Professor N.P. Jain. This is a very much talked of story. Like all the old professors talk of it. They all warned me. अरे अभी नहीं सुनती हैं तो शादी के बाद क्या सुनेंगे? कोई हुआ. I have to listen and everything. Those were the values. And the Professor N.P. Jain has written a book, beautiful, wonderful, best book on administrative law, principles of administrative law, N.P. Jain, S.N. Jain. Very good book. You are the person who gave me the attendance. The values were very different. The teaching style was very different. And one thing which I'm really shocked is, having trained in the last 1 year, almost 460 plus interns, not one of them is aware of the forensic laboratory tests. They don't know the difference between an autopsy, a coroner's report, inquest, post-mortem. You ask them, they say, we weren't taken to the CFSIN, we were taken to Philor, we were taken to CBI. They don't know how to conduct investigation. They know nothing. And you ask them, blatantly they lie on your face. Sir, I've attended all the classes. Well, if you attended all the classes, how could you have missed this? Not one of them is taught the art of cross-examination. See, ask them CPC, they're not well versed. So I said, what do you do there? Jindal, where I've been going fairly often. 50 lakhs they charge for a 5-year course. But look at none of the facilities. How can you be a complete criminal lawyer without this? That part is today's education is there. and they just come out and say, "Sir, this is what the professor taught us." I said, "How is it possible? You should have asked the professor a question. You're teaching us the law of evidence, unless you teach us the art of cross-examination, direct examination, what is substantive evidence, what is corroborative evidence, what is direct evidence, vicarious evidence, all those things." They don't know thing. That's very, very, I mean, like, and they're all in it together that you're not taught. I don't, not inclined to, I mean, are you taught you are in National Law University? Where are you studying?
Sir,
Law
we are
University?
based in Utkal University right now, final year.
Which one?
Utkal University, Odisha.
There's another one in Bhubaneswar, which is that one. My doctor who saved my life, it is owned by his brothers, his wife's brothers. A very big university in Bhubaneswar, Law
Uh,
University.
that would be KIIT University, Kids
Yeah,
School
yeah,
of
yeah.
Law, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that's
That's the
it.
biggest law school in Odisha. After
The doctor who saved my life, his wife's brothers are owning them. That's the case. So, and ask me any other questions so that I have a bit of a pause.
yes, sir, sure. So, as you have mentioned few of the cases in which you have dealt and were landmark cases, we would also like to know more about any other case which you have dealt and is of like public importance that we all should know, or if there was any remarkable or witty conversation
Oh, yeah.
involved in those cases.
On 26th May 1980, a judgment was delivered in Hyderabad asbestos case. Right? I was facing the top 8 lawyers of the country that time, except Mr. Palkiwala, Soni Surabji, S.S. Siddharth Shankar, Chief Minister of Bengal, Lal Narayan Sinha, L.M. Singhvi, Manu Singhvi's father, and almost, I mean, like eight cases. Everything. Mr. K. Prasran, the present Prasran's father, he was the Solicitor General. He was to argue that case. I was a young lawyer, but I was standing counsel, so I got caught. So when I stood up, I asked for an adjournment. Both the judges bollocked me. Okay, pay 50,000 rupees cost, we'll give you an adjournment. Come tomorrow. I said, I'm not going to, the government is not going to pay, I'm not going to pay 50,000 rupees. My father would have packed the offices. So I said, all right, we started the case. They had a battery of lawyers. The entire courtroom was filled with the staff and the juniors and the court clerks of those boys. I had one junior who was 8 months in the advanced stage of expectancy pregnancy. Right? And they went on and on and on and on and on. If I want to interfere, they wouldn't let me interfere. I named them. One judge was Justice Rajinder Sachar, who later became a Chief Justice of Delhi High Court. He had been my father's junior. He was very close to my uncle. We own a property here. We gave him a house here. He just wouldn't listen to me. The other judge was an appointee of the Janta regime. He just wouldn't listen to me. I dragged on after 4 days of hearing them repeating. I dragged on and dragged on. I said, somehow. Then, when I'd finished, a young lad, tall chap, he says, Sir, I'm your student. I said, then what? Are you going to help me? The judges are just not interested in listening to me. He says, Sir, can I take you to the then Finance Secretary? I said, why? He said, we'll go. And in the haste, I mean, without checking out, he said, you're a student and everything. And then when we went there, not blocked. He said, Sir, can we sit for a minute in my office? And what do I see? He orders coffee for me. And then I see his name. Lakshmi Kumaran, the number one advocate on excise and taxation, number one counsel on excise and taxation, right? He said that he took me to the field. And he said, don't worry, Mr. Jaggi, I will be coming here tomorrow. If they don't tell you, throw the fight. But you have to throw the fight. I said, sir, that will be contempt. Raw. He said, I'll be there. I said, sir, if you're not there, I'm not going to throw the fight. He said, if I'm not there for any reason, I'm late or any, I have some other commitment or some other work, I'm not there, Lakshmi will be there. I said, Lakshmi Kumaran being there doesn't help me because you are there today also. How does that help me? If you are smart enough, you should have come and stood next to me, shown his face. So I'll be there. Next morning, I was prepared when I was really, my heart was beating, time to the dozen, apprehensive what is going to happen. Very important. Those days it was 8 crores each excise duty coming to 64 crores. A lot of money in 1980. The moment I saw the secretary, I felt very honest gentleman, dhoti, kurta, chappals. I guess. I said, now I'm going to do it. I took a risk. I said, to hell with all these senior guys. I requested them. I said, you sit here. I mean, on the side, on the first seat on the side, so that let the judges see you. So he said, so there's Justice S.N. Kumar. What are you going to say? I said, if you allow me plenty, if you allow me nothing. What is this? I said, your lordship. What has Mr. Soli, I didn't say Mr. What has Soli done? He's repeated the same talking, 19 to the dozen, waxing eloquent. He repeated that 20 times. Did you stop him? It's public money, public time, court time, my time, the government's time. Soli had a habit of saying waxing eloquent, talking 19 to the dozen. Because he had no point otherwise I already said this. And what Mr. Siddharth Shankar Ray, who was the leading counsel, the first counsel, what has the other said? Spoken only to raise their fat bills. Your lordship, not like me. I start on this point, you stop me there, answer this. I come on this, you come back to that. The secretary was there, I was there. I had the back. Private case, I'd have fought them. Private case, I'd have fought them. But this was a government case, I had to be very, very careful. Then he said what? They said, give me a chance to speak. And can you believe it? Lakshmi Kumaran had taught me what excise extraction means. How many years back that is? 20, 21, 41 years back. 41 years back, he told me, sir, look at the meaning of extraction. And mining, excise. That case ultimately went to the government's favor. But look where Lakshmi Kumaran has gone. I did get a lot of advantage, but no, I did not deserve any advantage. It was all Lakshmi Kumaran's work. And right, he was under secretary that is how you know that these cases, they really bring so much into it. And then Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice Deepak Mishra's uncle, Chacha, Mr. Rangnath Mishra, he was very kind to me. I had won my first 104 cases, and my 105th case was before him. The other party had filed a matter. This was on, and I brought in a concept. The concept was contract de ession. Contract law. When I go to law universities, I ask the professors also, please explain this, start looking at the net. Contract de ession, contract, D, the French has three graphs, grass circle plate, ADHESION, contract de ession. Like it's a contract, right? I give you a contract. You have studied abroad, you got a degree from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, you come back to India. and you say, I want to set up my plant. The family says the plant is going to cost 10 crores. We have the land, we have everything, but we don't have 10 crores ready cash to invest from you. So they say, okay, we go to a bank. So you come to a bank. You come to me, and I'm the banker. And I say, okay, you got the degree, you got the technological advantage, education, your collateral security of your property, which is worth 12 crores, and you're wanting a loan of 10 crores, we'll give you the loan. And then you will ask for the loan. Is it a contract? Bank, I'm the bank. The contract. No, it's not a contract. How is it a contract? See, a contract has three ingredients: a proposal, offer, acceptance, and valid consideration. You give me a proposal and offer, I accept it. It is valid consideration, nothing illegal. All three are there, but how is it a contract? So Justice Rangnath Mishra, when he got up and the arguments were going in between, like they're not completed, he says, I'm very impressed with part of this point. At this point, I won't agree, I cannot agree with you because the banking system will collapse. See, it is not a contract because what happened, the bank has printed documents. They'll give it to you. You cannot add a comma. You cannot add a semicolon, a full stop. You cannot delete anything. You cannot change anything. It's a printed contract for everyone. So where is your will, free will? So these are called pretended contracts. Contract de SEO, pretended contracts. Many universities, many students in final year, they're not aware of it. They all say this. Contract de SEO, pretended contract. It's called take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Have you heard of Mariva injunction? My inspiration, my favorite, not just Mariva injunction. See, Mariva injunction is Lord Denning did for centuries, probably the finest exponent of law. Although in later years, many thought that he had lost, he become senile. But this you and I have a deal in India, right? Nothing happens in Great Britain. I cheat you. I take all your money, your goods, everything, my money, everything, and I go and settle it in England. I'm a fugitive of law in England, right? Earlier, before this Mariva injunction, the British court would say nothing, no cause of action. No cause of action has the court, unless the cause of action arises in the jurisdiction of that court. There can be there cannot be any, the court cannot have jurisdiction. So no cause of action has taken place, I've just flown to it. Right? Earlier it was only extradition treaty that said if you had an extradition treaty, they'll bring you back. Lord Denning said no. We cannot sit idle. Like my dear friend Mr. Anmol Sharma sitting idle, he's playing with his camera like this. Instead of paying attention to Mr. Pointer, he's playing around with this. Justice Denning says, no, we can't sit idle. No matter. We will take cognizance. And they started taking cognizance. That is how Malia, all these people, they said the court state jurisdiction. No cause of action may have arisen anywhere in the world. Now that principle has become applicable in most of the countries. They said, if you come here, this law will apply. Of course, in Canada, or the Sikhs who went as a political asylum, that they're not applying that. But otherwise, most countries, if you go there, nothing has happened in that country. The law will apply, they will hold it. The process will go on, but they have the jurisdiction. That's not Denning. Then one PI I filed I had a student, later became a professor, my junior, O.P. Saxena. He's called the pioneer of PILs in the Delhi High Court. He filed a PIL on the smallest things. This will all India lawyers forum for liberty. If you can find out, get the judgment, get it for me. The Chief Justice of India, Y.K. Sabarwal, was the judge in the Delhi High Court, Chief Justice here. He has written, Mr. Jaggi, we appreciate Mr. Jaggi bringing this matter to the court. This was a PIL to allow hospitals to be given opium pills for terminally ill cancer patients. Now, opium was a banned drug and you could not have it. So we filed a PIL and the PIL was allowed and the Narcotics Act was amended. Mr. N.K. Singh was the finance secretary, then he became a member of parliament, very prominent figure in Indian administrative service and political field. Can you put on this fan in? What's that? This fan. Put on this fan. Left, first switch. Sorry. He was there, and almost Justice Sabharwal's family passed away of cancer. Almost my wife suffered cancer. Almost everyone there had suffered this. Maybe that was the thing. And the law was amended. Now Dharamshila has about 200 opium pills for terminal cancer patients. Rajiv Gandhi has 400-500. Tata Memorial Cancer in Bombay has 600-700. That was the result of this PN. This is something which has given me great. The doctor whose mother was dying, he's now settled in Pune. He himself is, I had a talk with him some weeks back. He himself is now on a mission. But that was it. It was filed by the All India Lawyers Forum for Civil Liberties. You can get that, you'll find Justice Sabharwal saying we appreciate bringing this. Then for dyslexia, how many of you know that what is dyslexia? You ask any of the attendees, you know what's dyslexia? Dyslexia is Einstein was dyslexic, Bill Clinton was dyslexic, all major people, they're all dyslexic, slow handwriting. I got into this dyslexia case. A very senior lawyer, his grandchildren were studying in modern school. And they were not allowed to pass, they were being failed. So then they had a checkup and it was found they were suffering from dyslexia. He filed a writ petition and the law was changed. Now a dyslexic child cannot be failed from 1st to the 9th and 11th. 10th and 12th, he'll have a writer of the same class with half an hour extra time. That's how it is. This is something of great interest to me. Now you ask me some question also so that I had so many things in mind. You get carried away. Any attendee want to ask a question?
No, sir. Attendees can put their question in the comment box of YouTube. But one of the attendees have asked a question that we have already fixed to ask you at the end of the interview. So we will ask that.
How much more time is it over, or is this interview over or it's going on? How much more time?
Sir, it can continue without any restriction of time. There is not cap of any time here. We can continue here.
Zoom has 1 hour, not like that.
Yes, sir. But in this platform, we don't have any time cap. We can continue for more than hours. So that's not an issue here.
What I would like to talk to the attendees is, earn your law degree. Don't study last few days, pass and get. It doesn't work like this. You cannot be a lawyer, an advocate is a very specialized skill. Drafting is a very specialized skill. Your oratory is a very specialized skill. If your case is complete, and the drafting is perfect. It covers every aspect. The judge cannot go against you. Judge cannot go against you because everything is complete. Every answer there, black and white in writing. I see many of the new young lawyers. They'll take something from the net here, something from the net here without. That's why Justice Chandrachud pointed out it's so painful that then at least apply your mind when you're copying from this petition. At least you see there's some synchronization. There's no synchronization, no cohesion. Take this point, take this point. That doesn't work. Apply your mind. Think that you're living the facts. Think that you're creating the situation. What does a lawyer do? A lawyer is an actor. A lawyer is an actor. You know, what does a director do? He tells in a film, visually, he'll make you laugh, he'll make you cry. It is Johnny Lever, you laugh. If it's Dilip Kumar, sad face. If it's Salman Khan, issue, fighting. Visually, anybody can see. A lawyer does not have that advantage. A lawyer has to use his voice, the modulation of his voice. He can make a judge cry or make him feel live that very point. Suppose he's fighting the case of a wife who's been just for a dowry, she's being harassed. They've taken the dowry, don't give her proper food and everything. When you're going there writing a petition, this, judge is not impressed. He says, "Sare case likhta hai, jhoota hai." If you put that thing, Lordship, look, Your Honor, look, this is the torture she has suffered. Put that in your voice. She's not given the food. She's given after everyone in the family has eaten, then she's given the food. She's not allowed to sit when guests come. She's treated as a maid servant. She cannot call, if she calls her family, speaks to her family, somebody's hovering around her. She cannot even spend time with the children. The mother-in-law says, no, you get the grandchildren against the family. So where does she go? This voice that you use, you have to make the judge live the pain. That modulation of voice a lawyer has to learn. And that you learn only in a university. You don't learn anywhere else. Suppose it's an accused, a genuine accused. You got to plead, I'm helpless. The state machinery, my only fault is against the present dispensation, present government. You have to plead, your voice has to become different. And where it is, you have to fight. You have to fight like a tiger, like a giant. Fight. Your voice, the modulation of your voice should be such that not only does it ricochet, it reverberates around the whole courtroom, that the judge listens to you with his mouth open and the other lawyer does not interrupt you and he's watching you, hearing you. The public is in awe and adulation of how you are addressing. That is what is advocacy. Mr. Panda, Mr. Datta, tell your students, tell your attendees, this is the actual practice. Not like going there, sir, my lord, I couldn't go and give me 2 minutes time, 2 minutes time, 2 minutes time. Give me 2 minutes time. I mean 2 weeks time for filing a reply or anything like this. That is what is important. That is what is important. How you fight, how you use your voice. And you train them, make them stand before the mirror. Stand before the mirror and see, it's very difficult. Standing before the mirror and watching your own expressions. But that's how you learn. That confidence, that spontaneity. You have to live the moment. Even in a tough case, if you can win the emotion, no man, no judge is emotionless. Suppose the judge himself has a family problem in his wife or daughter or anybody, and it's a lady's case. See, you can win the judge's sympathy. The judge will start imagining in his mind that, look, this is possible. And if the judge is having a son and it's the other way around, and his daughter-in-law is torturing him, it will be very difficult before him. Then you have to bring the judge around and say, Lordship, every case is different. Start with this, yes, most cases are false. A majority of cases are false. By and large, taking advantage of 498A, which has become a Medusa head. But some cases can be genuine. That's how you plead, use your voice. A director of a film uses the visuals, the sight. You use your voice to be able to convince the judge. Once you have a judge is intention, you have to make him live the role. And the whole thing changes. The atmosphere, the environment, everyone sitting there getting bored, they'll also be interested in you. It is up to you how you present. Presentation is very important. Very important. Voice modulation, drafting skills. Then the art of cross-examination on the trial. If you're a trial lawyer, it's very important. Like as one day, I asked Mr. Anmol Sharma, very kind, running the technology, and Umesh Verma was supposed to come at 3:30, very punctual. I mean, if you call him at 3:30, he comes at 4:30. Today is very, very kind. Today came at 4:15, 15 minutes pehle aaya. I said, I put this question to Mr. Anmol Sharma. Is it a fact that you beat your wife every Sunday after drinking? Now what answer can he give? If he says no, that means he does not beat her on Sunday, he beats her on other days. Now these leading questions they have to learn in the law college. If you don't learn in the law college, where are you going to learn? That's it. And they're smart guys. This new generation, they take our antique old people like us for a ride. They think we are dumb, we are finished. Oh. I mean, you got to be super smart to match all the tricks that they play. Our tricks are different. Our tricks, but they are very smart. अगर काम नहीं करना, सर नेट नहीं काम करना. Net नहीं काम करना. So we had to get two connections. Then when we'd have a lot of interns, then somebody said you take 32 one connection, 8 or 6 another connection. We got to do. We got those. Then the one who doesn't want to work, he'll find some excuse. Sir, battery's conked out in my laptop, this and that, as I use this computer. They'll have some excuse. Right? That's natural. Good to have this. But we have to learn from them to be how to outsmart them, to get work out of them. Given the chance, they'll just vamoose, easily. And I am very fortunate that it's just 25 days in a month, Mr. Anmol Sharma plays tricks with me. Honestly, rest 5 other days is very hard work. Only 25 days he plays tricks. 5 days, honestly, is very hard work. Never misses out. I said, all right, 5 days in a month is good enough. Good enough. Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to stand up like any attendee want any question?
Yes, sir. One of our attendees, Muskan Malhotra,
Yes.
is asking you about what are some tips to improve the drafting skills. As you were discussing about drafting and modulation of voice and all, she asked this question just now.
That's in a quote, yes. The drafting skills are very important. Unfortunately, what has happened is that this pandemic COVID-19 has turned the world upside down. Now it will be, for some months more, I don't see by May or June, maybe July, August, when things settle down, the practice of law will be fairly different. The judges are not going to take the risk of fish markets, overcrowding. Believe me, it is so painful every morning. Only messages that come from Supreme Court Bar Association, High Court Bar Association, death, death, death. Very painful. I've lost my class fellows, I've lost my younger people, my 1 year senior, 2 year senior, like this. So now the practice is going to be different. So this gives advantage to those law students and the lawyers who are willing to dictate, learn the, tone up their tone and hone up their the skills for legal draftsmanship. If everything is complete, the judge does not have to, you don't have to argue. And your petition should be complete. The judge would be in a position to. So for that, you have to see CPC is the mastery. Secondly, no matter what we try, I have very good friends from Bhubaneswar, your place only. They want to make Odia the official language, everything. So I tell them yes. But I said in a court of law, when the lawyers come up there tomorrow, because the world's now is global village, if you go to England or America there, how are you going to argue unless you're fluent in the English language? It's all right if you're at the district court level, but in the superior courts and the English courts, my God, what wit! It's a close the door, please. What wit! What wit! What subtlety! The command of English language. That's how you fight. It's just wonderful. Like it said in Robin Hood. Your generation would not have read in our time Robin Hood that of sheriff of Sherwood village, Sherwood Forest. The rain had come and the stream was overflowing, so a tree fell down. So this one big fellow, Little John, is coming there. Another puny fellows come from the other side. So he says, I never give way to a knave. Many of you would not know what's a knave. Knave. Knave, knave means a fool. Knave means a fool. He says, I never give way to a fool. And the other fellow says, if I fight with him, if I answer, he's going to knock me down. He says, but I always do. See the answer. He said, मैं किसी गंदे विलन को हुलिगन को रास्ता नहीं देता. वो कहता पर मैं तो हमेशा देता हूँ. गाली भी दे दिया ना. तेरे को उसको भी बोल दिया. This is subtlety. This is subtlety. Like Winston Churchill and Sir Bernard Shaw, they had an argument. Sir Bernard Shaw sent 2 tickets of his play, Pygmalion. A movie was made on this My Fair Lady historical movie. He sent 2 tickets to Winston Churchill, the war prime minister of England, very powerful prime minister. He says, 2 tickets, one for you and one for your friend, if you have any. 2 tickets, he says, one for you and one for your friend, if you have any. Now, Winston Churchill was very upset. I'm the prime minister, and he said, I don't have a single friend. So what he did, he returned 1 ticket. He says, I am busy as the prime minister, but I'll give it to my friend. Give it to my friend. If your show for the next day, I won't come on Friday, for Saturday, if the show is still going on. How he retorted, he said, तुम्हारा तो पहला show ही खत्म हो जाएगा, second show होगा ही नहीं. I'll give it to a friend. He'll come on the next day, on Saturday, provided the second show is on. First पे खत्म हो जाएगा. So this is how you fight. I'm not worried about. He says, you have no friend. You couldn't get it. From your expression, you couldn't get it. Could you get what I'm saying? No. So what he was saying is, अरे तुम्हारा तो शो ही एक टीचर है, खत्म है, क्लास है, एक शो के बाद दूसरा शो ही नहीं होगा, तो मेरा दोस्त क्या देखने आएगा? This kind of this can happen when you if you read Renan Martin. Renan Martin is a fundamental book on English grammar. If you can master that, study that, it will really help you in drafting. Because in English language, there are 3 kinds of paragraphs: the topic, the mixed, and the loose. And if you can understand those, then your drafting becomes much easier. That is one way. Any other question?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I and Jyoti Prakash Datta are knowledge seeker for legal history and who are the eminent members of the bar. So, as you have already almost covered 5 decades in the bar, I would like to ask you that who are the eminent members as per you, both at national and state level, whom you consider your inspiration or whom we should know, and if there are any specific instance with them or lesser known facts about them, if you can tell our attendees.
You see, sometimes answering this question can become controversial because today's world, nobody is, everyone is very sensitive. Uh, I'm a Punjabi, and I come from a family who came as refugees from Pakistan in 1947. So when we came here, Delhi was a very small place. Beyond Delegate was all jungle, very few areas. Chandni Chowk and the city, which was called the Share, the main Share was there. And then there were civil lines. There are 24 bungalows in civil lines, 1 from 24. And behind, after, in between is the Ludlow Castle. And then you have the Lieutenant Governor's house and then Rajpur Road. These were areas that the new colonies came up. My father was able to get on Pagri, did not buy, on 2,500 rupees. 2,500 rupees, a 4.5 acre bungalow, 6 Alipur Road. This was bang opposite the Maiden's Hotel, one of the oldest hotels of Oberoi Group. Clark's, Cecil and Simla, and Maiden's Hotel, oldest hotel. Built during the British when the capital shifted from Calcutta there. Number 5 was, we were 6, that was number 7. 5 was the Lieutenant Chief Commissioner and the Financial Commissioner's office. 4 was the Punjab Guest House where the Oberoi Group, the 2 boys born, Mickey and Tiki, got married from that house. That was 4. 3 was Ludlow Castle where Lord Ludlow Castle resided. 2 was Swiss Hotel, now became Swiss Apartments. 1 was the Nicholson Park and the Nicholson Cemetery. And then Kashmiri Gate. And that went on. 8 was Gadodias, the richest people, market owners of that place. 9 was, that time we had one chief minister, Brahm Prakash, later became Metropolitan Council. 9 was his number. 10 was the IG's bungalow. 11 was the Nuruli Makardo, the mayor's bungalow. 12 was Grand Hotel. 13 was Exchange Store. So we lived in that area. So we've grown up there. We used to go to the river Yamuna. River Yamuna was hardly 6 furlongs from there, go across, 6 furlongs from there, go there. It was very clean. And that is where all the people from the share, the town, the local residents who were not refugees, they would come there. Unfortunately, our family was probably one of the maybe 8 or 10, there were hardly 8 or 10 refugee families who were in Rajpur Road or Alipur Road. Rest, Delhi was inhabited by the Kais. Kais are a very cultured class of people, right? And they thought Punjabis were ruffians and they loudmouth and show offs and everything. So those things were happening. And I won't name it because, see, at the president, there was only one court that time in Delhi. That was Kashmiri Gate and then Tislari. One gentleman of the Kais family was repeatedly becoming the president of the bar for 16 years. 16 years. His son later became the president of the High Court Bar. His grandson is now the president of the High Court Bar. After 16 years, my father and the refugees out there, they were able to dislodge this gentleman, and Amarnath Mongia, a Punjabi refugee, became the president. And that's the start of the Punjabis getting to what you call it. Then the Kashmiri Gate was abolished. I mean, it's still a small court. Tisari had come up, it started. Then the High Court had earlier it was circuit bench of Shimla High Court, Punjab High Court circuit bench. The judges, 2 judges used to come from Punjab and Haryana. Then it became its own High Court. Then it started like this. That's how the Punjabis who came as refugees were able to do it. Otherwise, it was a hold of the Kais. Now, if I tell you that story, the present president, he's the grandson of that gentleman, and he hears this and he says, "Look, I mean, I'll be digging graves. I mean, like he checks up, and his father is a very good friend, a very revered, respected friend. Understand? It'll be very difficult talking about this. But that was the start of. Before that, it was the entire rule of the caste community. The Punjabis had no say. That change came in there. I've had touch shoulders, rub shoulders with MCC Tilwad, CK Daftari. Oh, they were doings. Oh, you don't have that class now. Yeah. I'm 73, 74, but believe me, I've become 16 years old when I remember arguing racism in Bombay. What mastery of the English language, what subtleties, what nuances, the finesse of the English language, the command, and we are pulling each other's legs with witty, subtle remarks, sarcastic sarcasm, irony at its best, Shakespeare, Chaucer at its best. It was such an honor. That was the practice. When we had such laudable, till 1975, you never applied for judgeship. You were invited to be a judge on merit. That was a different class. Different class. It was such a wonderful, wonderful experience rubbing shoulders with them. On point, pretending to be friends, calling him my learned friend and whipping him there, and he's calling you my more learned friend and whipping you harder. Just the use of the English language. That reminds me, what Lord? Lal Narayan Sinha. What a wonderful, very mild, what a wonderful. L.M. Singhvi. Manu is not a patch on him. See, success doesn't matter. Success doesn't matter winning cases. Success matters when the dispensation changes. If it's your government and you have the institutions backing you, winning cases is not a thing. What matters is when the dispensation is not yours. Show me one case you won, one relief you got. In Chindambaram's case, it was terrible. A novice lawyer, they used to point out that mistake he made the second time when he went there. That was his office made that mistake. Mukul Rohde also was. Now, if I talk like this, it makes difference. I mean, his father had told me, Justice Avan Bihari, playing the cricket match. I'm very happy Mukul is drafting from you, learning from you. He used to handle all the Mio cases for us in Gurgaon. A lot of cases there. Very good orator. His father, Justice Avan Bihari, was my professor of law at Delhi University, taught us CPC. Talking about that is, I would think, become controversial, or you don't know who might be hurt, even if I'm giving the record. You get it? So, everyone is great. I'd like to put it like this. If you ask me specific names, I could do this. But judge, class apart, nobody better than him in English language. Justice Krishna Iyer, my ideal. I did a couple of matters, and when I was teaching law in Delhi University, we invited him there. I said, Your Lordship, my students have a complaint against me. He said, oh, and that complaint relates to you. He said, oh. I said, my students say that whenever you are discussing a judgment of Justice Krishna Iyer, you talk more about the judge and less about the judgment. Until the last day, you remember this. I will talk about him. There's so many books which I present to the interns who come there. I get from university. Almost every book written and published by him. We like this collected. Here's a class apart. His language and everything. Then two other judges who stood out, Chief Justice P.N. Bhagwati and Chandrachud, his father. They were very different. We had many other senior people, the earlier ones, Gajendra Gatkar, P.V. Gajendra Gatkar. Justice Shah's son was my class fellow in school. Later, we fell apart because I was representing Mrs. Indira Gandhi and the Shah Commission with Lalit Makhan. So I would not like to touch on this aspect because why create a controversy? Why create a controversy? But if you ask me, I could specific name I could tell you. Any other question?
Yes, sir. So now, we know that your forte is drafting, and as I came to know from your Jaggi and the Jaggi International Attorneys
No.
website.
Just 1 second. Drafting, I can give you a complete draft. If you can challenge break my drafting, I'll consider you master. I mean, you win. We can measure. But one more thing, I am a mouse at home. I have three beautiful ladies at home, my wife and two daughters. They never let me speak. Right? So outside, when I'm there, I never leave the mic. That's another thing. My skills also in my younger days were the art of presentation. Art of presentation. When I was younger and healthier, is a thing. Oratorial skills. I could argue. One more thing. In our earlier days, we used to argue for 13 days. A case. Court would start at 10:45, 10:40. The judge would get off a coffee. 10:45, 10:50. Come back. Regular hearings. 13 days we used to argue and we used to enjoy legal arguments. No kachra, no. So now there's no force in my because of age in my voice, but yes, my oratorial skills because of being the best debater in my school days, elocution and recitation. Yes, I did have a fair command over the rest on the oratorial skills. I could turn and twist around a bad case into a winning case because if you have that prowess yes, and that wit of mind, which is necessary, this may be taken as an act of bragging. But if you do, it is for the attendees to understand that yes, without oratory, I've never in my life fought like this. Many of the youngsters, no, you fight with your words, you fight with your brains. That guy is going mad with anger and everything. You just smile at him and with your word, you say, yes, that's the skill. That's the skill. Why fight? What are you fighting for? Today you find for a bail matter, some data of this thing will come with 20 guys, the judges probably. That's not practice. Practice is, okay, you got to accept. I remember the words of Lord Denning. My spirit gets imbibed when I speak of him. You know what? Somebody asked him, what is the fear that a judge has? And Lord Denning said, there's only one fear that a judge has. That his judgment may not be overruled. That's the only fear he has. His judgment may not be overruled. And what he said is, I spoke at a High Court judge who was very kind to me. On his passing away, I spoke about him. There was a very large gathering, very probably no other judge has had such a large gathering on his last rites, on his Kirya day. I spoke. I was not getting a chance because everyone wanted to speak. I had to push by there. He had been very kind to me. And I wanted to pay obeisance. And I said, I will not speak at his obituary. I will eulogize him. And that's why I interfered and they said like this. I said, I just say this. When the vanquished and the victor go back from the court, satisfied that they've had a fair hearing. That is a judge. My Lord, that is a judge. And that was this judge. When the vanquished and the victor go back satisfied that they've had a fair hearing, that, my Lord, is a judge. And this was that judge. Now, Anmol is asking me, what does vanquished means? Vanquished means defeated, and victor means who's won. When both of them go back satisfied that, yes, we had a fair hearing. Winning or losing is not there. That is a judge. I said, that, my Lord, is the judge, and this was that judge. Spoke about that. And Lord Denning also, that. Where do we have this? You go to the courts sometimes, you find he's got a huge practice like this. What? We'll take 20 lawyers here, 20 lawyers there. Judge ki kya himmat hai lower district courts mein ki bail nahi dega, stay nahi dega. That's not practice. Have the guts to do it on merits. So what? You can't win every case, but when you go to the court, the client should feel you've done justice. Make the client feel that, look, अरे मेरा केस इतना कमजोर होता है, मेरा केस इतना अच्छा बना दिया. You can't win every case. See, who are the two kinds of people that come to a lawyer? There are only two kinds of people who come to a lawyer. One, who have cheated. The others who have been cheated. One who is wrong, the other who has been wronged. Right? So sometimes, how do you know that the person who has wronged everyone else will not wrong you also? So the lawyer has to protect himself, like that senior counsel. I'm telling him, I'm giving him signal, don't do it. He said, no, Krishna. What a big lesson. What a big lesson. And that lawyer was the one. We didn't have chambers in the Delhi High Court when he started. When he was a secretary, then we started like this. He played a very major role. A major role in the benefits of the legal community. But he couldn't do it. How do people cheat you in smaller place? Lawyer. Earlier there used to be typewriter, the rate was 1+2. Typist school, they'd go there and say, okay, let me read, quick mistake for you. If there's a mistake, you have to use a rubber and everything like that. There's no computer. Go there, disappear. Photocopy, 2 आना की था. Typing का 1+2, 1 rupee 50 paisa था. That was 2 annas. That was 12 paisa. Take away, get the photocopies made and file. So how do you know that the client is not going to cheat? And one more thing. When you find that the client is absolutely dishonest, he's done nothing in his life except cheated everyone. Never ever trust him. Never ever drop your guard. Always and never ever tell him. Because he has no moral conscience. Why would he? Why would he treat you different? You get my point. So you have to also watch that aspect. A good man who's already been wronged, he knows what the pain and suffering of a person who's been wronged is. He'll be a decent guy. But a thorough crook, a habitual criminal, why would he be loyal to you? He'll get the relief. He wants the bail, you get the bail. That's the fees, he'll never come to you. This excuse, that if you go to some other lawyer, because he knows now the case will come after years. Many people do that. So the lawyer also has to be, as a human being, in the present scenario. It was not there in our time. I remember my father scolding clients, and they took the scolding because they knew the lawyer was their godfather. And the lawyer knew that the client is his anndata. Do you understand Hindi? You understand? An means food. Data means the one who gives you food. We've been brought up with that thinking. A client. Huh? Blanked out. Client is your anndata, and you were treating God as Godfather to your Savior. That was the relationship. Things change, circumstances change, right? They all change with passage of time. After the Second World War, the Germans hated British, the British hated Germans. Present generation knows nothing about the Second World War. 1984, what happened? A particular community was slaughtered. Today, that new generation knows nothing. History changes. Times change. What we were taught, what we learned, no good. But yes, COVID-19 is going to, with my limited experience, is going to change the practice. The judges will not, the system will not allow like that overcrowding, like this court packed and everything else. So if that being becoming the yardstick or the rule, it will be you'll have to be well aware of the virtual system. The younger generation will have a tremendous advantage over antiques like us. That's one advantage. So that opens a field for them. But second, this gives them an advantage to hone and tone up their drafting skills. If the petitions are complete, plaints are correct, everything is to order. Don't have to speak. The judge has to deliver. I think should we call it a day? Huh?
Sir, there are two, three more questions that
Okay.
our co-founder Jyoti Prakash Datta wants to
Sure.
ask you. So if you allow, then
Yes, yes.
we.
Not, of course, of course, of course.
Okay, sir. So I would like to call upon Jyoti Prakash to address the question that he has to ask, sir.
Yes. That attendee question must be asked. Yes, Mr. Datta.
Thank you, sir. It was really enlightening session. Devasis has questioned you many relevant questions. I was listening to all the answers that you were explaining very strenuously. It was really a great session, sir. Sir, I just observed that you have great regard for Lord Denning. And while you were telling about Lord Denning, I just got another thing in my mind. Once Lord Denning described homosexuals as not eligible people to be judges, and to remain in court. He is regarded as one of the most progressive judges, but still he had this kind of thoughts in his mind. So recently in 2018 we have allowed homosexuality in our country, and we have also decriminalized homosexuality. So in this context, do you think Lord Denning was correct?
I would see you have to you will have to allow me to digress and speak.
Sure, sir,
I
sure.
have I have read a fair amount of Lord Denning, and in the later stages, many people thought that he'd gone mad, and his last stages were not very. He was even asked to be removed from judgeship and everything like that because his judgments were way beyond the common man to understand. And if his judgments had been allowed to prevail, it would have created not only uh, divulge in the society, it would have created a volcanic eruption with cataclysmic and catastrophic proportions because it was that far-sighted. Now, with the background and the time period that Lord Denning came from, his acceptance of homosexuality as a normalcy would be very difficult, would be impossible to accept. Impossible. Because we are all creatures of our times. If you go back to the Victorian era, if you go back to the Victorian era, if you saw a lady's ankles, ankles, oh, wow, because they are in corsets so tightly, layers and layers of dresses, right? In my time, if a boy and girl were walking at India Gate or any park, a cop would, oh, the battery's running low. Charge कैसे करूँगा? Plug it in.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, uh, a cop would come and say, you could never say she's my friend. You have to say she's my cousin. Right? the Chief Justice of Himachal High Court, public prosecutor, and a judge, senior judge in the Delhi High Court. He had a Muslim wife. He was walking in India Gate. The cops came and he said, "Kya kar rahe ho?" He said, "Apni wife ke saath walk kar rahe hain." Said, "Chalo." Took him to the police station, Tilak Mark. The SHO, because he was public prosecutor earlier, that time he was the judge, sitting High Court judge. His SHO got up and slapped the cop. "Kinko le aaye ho?" The judge sir went to see, देखने के लिए कि if this can happen to me, what can happen to the common man. This was in all the papers of that time. His name was Justice V.D. Mishra, Vyas Dev Mishra. In Odisha, they write MISRA, not that, this was UP, this was MISHRA. His son, Sudarshan, junior to me, he also became a retired also Delhi High Court judge. Taken to the cop station, just walking, nothing like this. When I joined the law faculty, there was a Jat college, Kivodi, boys would come and say, "How are you talking to girls?" I said, "Well, then how does it matter?" Younger days, I was a wrestler also, and I was young. I mean, before that, can you believe, before 68, 69, talking, I mean, in law, in co-ed colleges, you couldn't talk to girls. They'd sit in a separate section like this. Brought up in the mind frame of that, how could you do it? As a child, it had been instilled in his mind that, look, this is a heinous crime, and as a Christian, you'll rot in hell. Right? He could never understand, could never have in his mind the thought that being homosexual is only your bent of mind. It's only the way your body works, functions body. Nothing wrong with it. Right? In our time, can you believe it? There was one magazine, Debonair, and it just had a semi-nude, one photograph in the center page, a lady in a bathing suit. And used to hide it and everything like this. Buy it on black. Today, your generation, 10 years, 11 years old, we look, what you're thinking is totally different. My age, if my parents are sitting there, my wife had to sit there, she could not sit here with me. Although my father was very, very progressive. In that age, no husband and wife could walk together. The wife would be behind you and the husband is. You cannot imagine, ghungat hota tha. You know what's a ghungat? Covering this. Not only before the father-in-law, but even before the husband's elder brother. With that bent of mind, how could you, it was very, very difficult for him to accept that this is only a natural phenomenon. That's the way he's been born with. It's very difficult. I'm not taking his side. Sometimes we become so addictive to our thought process, because when you're 4 years old, till 4 years, all your memories, your preconceived notions are already formed there. All them. I'm not taking his side. See, after Justice Shah gave his judgment, then again the reversal, everything. That also is fundamentally what? Whichever judge wants his publicity, whichever way it's going, he'll come. What happened? Look at Justice Karchu. He gave one judgment, and then he gave another judgment. He said, my judgment as Allahabad High Court judge was as a raw judge. Now I'm a seasoned judge, I'm reversing my own judgment. So by bent of mind, no? Everyone couldn't change. So it's not, I mean, can you imagine your grandfather's age? The difference between you and me is not one generation, maybe two, if not three, 2 generations. Think of your grandfather's age. Your grandmother could never have, without appeared without a gungat before your great grandfather or his elder brother. We are brought up in that frame of mind. The times were different. Victorian era was very, very strict. All the fetishism, this being a sadist, being a masochist, all these developed during the Victorian era only. But on the face of it, they were very strict, culture-wise. Now with knowledge, we are saying it's a I mean, it's a natural phenomenon to debate like this. So even though I admire him, even though I respect him, I hold him in great adulation. Hold him in great adulation. The fact remains that with that bent of mind for him to have changed. See, I have Mr. Anmol Sharma changing his mind, his set up. I find it very difficult making him change. ऐसे तो ऐसे. A donkey is not an ass, and ass is not a donkey, तो ऐसा ही है. Different brand like this. And he's a young fellow, gentleman. Any other question?
Yes, sir, you have very rightly described that every person is also influenced by the societal conditions that is prevailing in his time. So, sir, the next question is many people say that there is a difference between lawyering and advocacy is not equal to lawyering. And Justice M.C. Chagla, the legendary justice, the former Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, has also written in his autobiography that his senior, Mr. Jinnah, was a great advocate, but he was a poor lawyer. So, sir, do you think there is any difference between advocacy and lawyering, and what is the difference?
Bringing in Mr. Jinnah, will you make this a controversial topic or the founding father of Pakistan, or would that not make this webinar a controversial one? Be that as it may. See, advocacy is. Well, let me first ask you, what do you understand by lawyering, and what do you understand by advocacy? What do you understand by lawyering?
Indeed, sir. Sir, lawyering is basically about satisfying the cause of your client. Advocacy is something different. As I understand, advocacy is something different. It is sometimes advocacy can sometimes go against the interest of the client, but lawyering is something which is very profound and very basic to the client. Advocacy sometimes inspire the judges, but still cannot fulfill the causes of the client.
I wouldn't. I would beg to disagree with you. In fact, I don't think there's any word lawyering at all in the English language. The word lawyering itself is incorrect. Do you find it in any? Do you find it in Blackson Law Lexicon? You know, legal dictionary is called a lexicon. Do you find that in this? You won't find it. Lawyering is no word in English language, but be that as may, we'll go like this. See, advocacy is you advocate a cause. See, now try and understand. You advocate a cause. You're standing for a cause. Lawyering, there's no such word. Being a lawyer is representing your client. So naturally, you have to represent his interest, even knowing fully well that he's wrong, he's committed the offense, he is guilty. But because you're paid for it, you have to. It's your job to appear as a lawyer and conduct his duty. So this is my perception. I beg to disagree with you. Advocacy, you advocate a cause. You speak for this is my cause, so I'm advocating it. Beef nahi khani, nahi khani. This is a cause. Smoke nahi karna. I'm advocating that cause. I'm not lawyering. Lawyering, there's no such word. Acting as a lawyer is the correct English language. Remember this. Acting as a lawyer is the correct English terminology, and this means that you fight for your client. Knowing fully well he's wrong, you'll be paid for it. That's your understanding, that's your professional commitment. This is the main difference between acting as a lawyer and advocacy, and acting as an advocate. The correct nomenclature should be acting as a lawyer and acting as an advocate. Advocacy, of course, is an accepted word of the British English language. Lawyering is no such word. Lawyering to dilali kar raha hai. This is what he is. So this is my perception of it.
Indeed, sir, that is very correct perception, and I also appreciate that view. Sir, before we call it a day, I would like to ask you the last question of this session. Sir, many of the attendees have requested us.
After that, I
Yes,
will just put one question to all of you. Then after you
yes, sir,
ask the
yes.
last, Mr. Datta, Panda is very smart. He's removed himself. knowing that I'll ask him that question if he didn't answer on the phone yesterday. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yes, you asked
Sure.
me the question. Ask me the
Okay, sir.
last question.
Okay, sir. So many of the attendees want to know that what should be your advice to them, especially the persons who are first generation lawyers who have no backing in the legal profession, who are doing it from the scratch. What should be your advice to them, and how would they thrive and prosper in this particular profession?
See, this is a glorious profession. It is a glorious profession. You cannot have find a better profession. But you've got to understand one thing. Coming out of a law school, you cannot start earning lakhs of rupees. You have to understand you can start earning crores of rupees while still in your final year of your law school, provided you earn your law degree. See, they can't take they say pass ho kya jate hain. No. This is one profession. If you've just scraped through, studied this paper, that paper, everything like this, 1 day, 2 days, everything, no. Study the statutes. When I was studying, my father would send me to three gurus. They gave me hell. But by the time I was in my second year, I was a full-fledged lawyer. And then I could speak to my professor. They never minded the questioning. They felt, yes, oh, a practical lawyer on the practical side has asked this question. They would do their homework. They'll come with better answers. It's a wonderful experience. If you study, take it as your gospel. Take this as your profession. You have to be honest with the profession. While as a final year, you can go in crores. But if you are just scraping through and think you'll come out of the law school and earn that, have I been able to make the distinction? If you study, understand what law is all about, it's the simplest subject in the world. Simplest. There cannot be anything more simple. Just common sense. You can be in crores. But come there, be prepared. Work is your work. Anybody who's competent, work is not a dart. Not a dart at all. But the fact is, you come out there, you know nothing. And who's going to pay you? See, after all, the senior is not going to pay you. The senior will pay you, the client pays him. No? Out of that, the senior is going to pay you. So if you don't know anything, the client will come and say, "Unko to kuch aata nahi." The senior will say, "Bhai, मेरी भी reputation खराब करेगा, I'll change you, I'll take somebody else." So first, while studying, please spend these 2, 3 years or 5 years as your be all in it. You work hard in these 5 years, rest of your life you are going to enjoy. Not you, your family. Your family will give them so much money, the family will enjoy, you will be working hard. But spend these 5 years actually working. Actually working. Study this. I mean, you come out complete lawyers. Anybody would grab you. If you know your subject, okay, yes, here's the job. You quote your price. But you come out there, I mean, 3 दिन पहले पढ़ा, 6 दिन पहले पढ़ा, attendance उसकी we used to have a dissertation and a master's. Now you have some project. वो इधर से कॉपी करता, उधर से कॉपी करता, क्या करता है? That's not it. Do justice to your final paper, also your project at least, your dissertation at least. Just these 3 years or 5 year, 3 year course or 5 year course. Just think nothing but law, working hard, and rest of the life you are just going to enjoy. Your family is going to enjoy. Nobody can stop you from there. Just understand. The client should say, "आप इतना मांगते सर, ये इनाम अलग लो सर." That should be the thing. Okay, that's mine. Any other question?
Indeed, sir. That is a great advice. We have to dedicate ourselves to the law because it is going to
Just,
make us
just,
whatever we will.
just these 3 years or 5 years. Just after that, everything you will enjoy. You will enjoy. Okay, now I'm going to ask a question to
Yes.
all of you. Mr. Panda seems to have disappeared. He doesn't want to answer or what? Anyway, you can put the question. This goes for him also. Yeah, I ask you this question. You have to answer translated into 4 words. Imran Khan, the cricket captain of Pakistan who won the World Cup for them and who is now the Prime Minister of Pakistan, a case was filed against him by Ian Botham. Ian Botham was the cricket captain of the English cricket team, England, and Lamb, two down batsmen. This case was being conducted. While the trial was going on, another former captain of cricket, Sir Geoffrey Boycott, a commentator also par excellence, he was commentating, and when his turn came to give evidence, he was summoned. Cricket is played in summers in England. So he was in a half-sleeve bush shirt, but he was wearing a tie and, of course, formal trousers. And he rushed to the court. And this is what the judge had to say. Mr. Geoffrey Boycott, much as we hold you in adulation, in complete reverence, as an ambassador of goodwill by playing the game of gentlemen. Cricket may no longer be a game of gentlemen, but it's earlier called game of gentlemen. Much as we appreciate your skills as an extraordinary commentator and the glory that you brought to the shores of this great nation, much as we continue to admire your contribution on and off the field, on and off the mic, on and off the game, as an ambassador of this great country. The autocratic monocrat of the day may have perambulated the concavity of the sky upon the British Empire. The autocratic monocrat of the day may have perambulated the concavity of sky upon the British Empire. But woe betide, should that ever happen to the British judicial system. Please go back, come properly attired. This is a court of law and justice, court of equity, principle of natural justice and good conscience. Please go, respect the majesty of law, come back properly attired. And just backed off. Now the point is, what did the 4 words mean? The autocratic monocrat of the day has perambulated the concavity of the sky. The answer is in the question. The answer is in the question. It means the sun has set. It's a very simple question. Simple answer. See, he says, the sun has set upon the British Empire. It was said England has, the sun never sets on the British Empire. He says woe betide, W-O-E-B-E-T-I-D. This is biblical language. It means woe betide, God forbid. For God forbid, they use the word woe betide. It says woe betide. God forbid should that happen to the British. No, go back. Come properly attired. That is the kind of practice, Mr. Panda, Mr. Datta. That is what you're going to do. And one more thing. Anywhere in the Western European countries, right? If you are in America, they'll call you Devashish, Jyoti. But if you're in England and you're in a law firm, don't address them by the first name. Always say by the surname Mr. So-and-so or the last name Mr. So-and-so. Now, Mr. Jyoti Prakash Datta, can you change the mindset? You were talking about Lord Denning. If he could not accept homosexuality as a normalcy, natural phenomenon, it takes them this. People of my age, my generation, we find it blasphemous. Somebody calling you Navin Ji, Navin Ji. It's convert because you're the present, we are the past. But it is very, very right. So I have not charged you 2.5 lakh fees for this legal advice. But in England, it's always Sir Mr. So-and-so. Then if he says you can call me this, then you call them. But the first time, he will feel offended. And a senior barrister, he's not going to accept it. Of course, in Birmingham, Pakistani Indian lawyers, I'm not talking of that, I'm talking of British lawyers, where the majesty of law and the wigs and robes and Lord Chancellor coming, the glory, the thick carpet and pin drop silence, literally and virtually. It's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's an ecstasy when you see how they're arguing. Wow. It's a tremendous feeling, tremendous feeling. So you always call them Mr. and in England, anywhere else, I'm talking about the big old law firms and everything. Then he can say, call me by your first name, then do it. But first, an American will say, why are you calling me by your surname? Call me by your first name. President of America will be in jeans, right? The Queen will never be in an informal dress. The Duke was never in an informal dress, always formally dressed. That's the difference, the mindset of the big. Anything else? I have to thank you very much, Mr. Panda, Mr. Dutt, for giving me this opportunity. And if
Thank you, sir. Indeed, we learned many things. We have learned many things from you, sir, and we expected to we would learn something from the legal background and the law. But beyond our expectation, you also described literature, history, and culture of different nations, and the judicial culture especially. That is very enriching, sir. We are very much thankful. I, on behalf of my team, Lex Cognoscenti, Devasis, and all my team members, I express my heartfelt gratitude to you for sparing 2 valuable hours from your busy schedule, sir. It was really a very enthralling opportunity for us to host you, sir.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was
Really,
an honor, sir.
thank you.